Only 2 teams remain in our 12 teams in 12-day series. I'm Bobby Broyles. He is Tim McDonald. And today we get to break down the Villanova Wildcats. Tim, this team was picked to win the league last season, but things ended up a little different for the Wildcats as they finished 6-5. We all wanted to see what John Robertson would do for an encore after winning the Jerry Rice Award 2 years ago, and he didn't disappoint in 2013.
No, John Robertson, and I'm giving him a nickname, I'll just say it right now. Jonathan Football, as I'm going to call him this year. Mr. Walter Payton Award watch list member this year. Just the numbers that he put up in 2013, it really was the perfect encore after winning the Jerry Rice Award. Just thinking, 20 rushing touchdowns for a quarterback, 1,405 yards rushing. On top of that, he also threw 13 touchdowns passing. It's just a season that I think is going to get overshadowed because Villanova didn't make the playoffs and because they were picked as the preseason favorite and finished with 5 losses. I think, John Robertson really, at times, we saw Villanova just rely way too much on him. And it shows how good of a quarterback he is to have that much success in CAA football. It's not like teams didn't know what Villanova was going to do offensively. Villanova, I think, is just, a question of how can they use John Robertson in the right sense, but not use him too much. And I think that's going to be a huge question for this team. Again, we know Poppy Livers is back, the receiver. We know some other guys are back. The running backs are back. Offensive line is going to be a huge question for this team as well. Still, I'm really excited to see how this team bounces back from a disappointing end last year.
Well, we talked with Nova Signal caller John Robertson at Media Day, and he discussed the areas he's looking to find to improve in 2014.
I think me and my coach both agree that just spreading the ball around a little bit more and just getting guys the ball more efficiently. I think we need to throw it deeper. And last year we had about 4 to 5 guys out for our receivers with injuries. So that was kind of on the back burner a little bit. But, I'm just always trying to refine my passing game, just get better all the time. I would love to be a quarterback who could throw 3,000 yards as well next year. I mean, it depends on what happens. But, besides that, just working hard every day and just building chemistry with the team all the time.
The Wildcats did lead the conference in rushing last year, but they have some holes up front on the offensive line needing to replace 3 starters.
It should be important. It's not like this is a Villanova team that, we don't know what they're going to look like on both sides of the ball. They're returning 15 starters, so it's a lot of guys back from that team last year. Offensively, 7 starters are back. Kevin Monangai and Austin Medley, I think they're going to need to have huge years in order for Villanova to have any type of success. Both running backs, really, in 2012, 2 years ago, both running backs, Monangai was a 1,000-yard rusher. He had 1,200 yards. Austin Medley was a guy who really was the third down back, could come in and catch screens, do everything. Last year, not to say they weren't productive, it just wasn't the same style of offense that we saw. It was really, John Robertson would start, then it would go to the running backs and back to Robertson. Offensively, like you said, we talked about the offensive line for this team. We know Vince Kowalski and Russ Hall are both seniors, are both going to be back on the offensive line. Other than that, we really don't know who else is going to step in. Obviously, you'd think the number 1 rushing offense in the league, offensive line is a pretty important position. Villanova, I think, will be able to fill that pretty well. But like I said, I think it's going to be the play of the running backs complementing John Robertson, not the other way around. Again, you mentioned the number 1 rush offense in the league. They also averaged 30 points per game. Really, we saw so many close games. They won close games. We saw the William Mary game they won. They won the Towson game. I still think starting the season with 2 losses, then they win 3, then they lose 3. So it's a question, again, can you put it all together in in one game?
Here is head coach Andy Talley on how his team hopes to address the holes on the offensive line.
Well, we have a terrific backfield right now. Kevin Monangai was an all-conference player 2 years ago, and he's back as a senior, and Austin Medley backs him up, and they're a great 1-2 punch. But as you mentioned, we need to replace 3 offensive linemen. We have 3 real nice prospects, but to get that synergy and cohesiveness in the offensive line sometimes takes time, and I think Robertson with his feet can get us out of trouble to those guys, get a little better at run blocking and pass blocking, but I'm hopeful that we can improve the O-line and be okay.
Villanova looks to be very potent on offense once again in 2014, and the Wildcats find themselves in familiar territory near the top of the CAA preseason poll. Tim, I'm guessing their schedule is where you want to start.
Yeah, I like where your head's at, no doubt, but I'll let you continue.
Well, the Cats head to Richmond on November 1st for a Comcast Sportsnet TV game, and then are home the following weekend against Towson on the American Sports Network. These late games could really set the scene, not just for Nova, but for the rest of the league vying for the CAA football title near the end of the season.
We saw Nova really turn it on at the end of the year. Like I mentioned, they had 3 losses in the middle of the season. They came won the last 2 games. Yes, it was versus Rhode Island and versus Delaware. That Delaware win was very important. It essentially kept the Blue Hens out of the playoffs.
Yep.
Still, you know me and my out-of-conference schedules, and I love Villanova's schedule. Open up the season on a Friday night in the Carrier Dome at Syracuse. Not to mention Syracuse, according to John Robertson, Jonathan Football, he was recruited by Syracuse. A couple of other Villanova players were recruited. They felt like maybe they got overlooked a little bit. That's going to be a Friday night showdown. The next weekend, they get Fordham at home. And we remember last year, they played at Fordham, that was Villanova, and they lost by 3. Kind of, we knew Fordham would be good, but last year Fordham went to the playoffs. Towson beat them in the playoffs. Still, as often with these previews, we look at offense, and touchdowns. I think defensively, Villanova returns a lot of upperclassmen. Don Cherry, he was a second-team All-CAA guy. Joey Harmon, he's technically going to be a 4-year starter. Dylan Lucas, who won CAA Rookie Defender of the Year 2 years ago. And Cam McMurray. I mean, it's not like there's guys who we don't know and we're not wondering what's going to happen. These are upperclassmen on this Villanova team that I think are ready to prove that last year 6-5. I think they're ready to bounce back and show 6-5. They can do better than that.
Well, there will be some holes on that defensive line. Raheem Cox, Antoine Lewis,
good point. Very
both
good point.
Really good players that have graduated and moved on. Villanova's season starts on Friday night, August the 29th, like we said, at Syracuse in the Carrier Dome, in a contest that can be seen live on SNY and ESPN3. Kickoff is set for 7:30.
Mr. Robertson, a.k.a. my new nickname, Jonathan Football, and receiver Poppy Ivers sat down with our video guru guy, Alex Souza, at Media Day for our Who I Am features. Of course, you can check them out on CAA Football's Every Day is Saturday blog.
One more team to go for CAA Football's 12 Teams in 12 Days series. Tomorrow, Tim and I take a look at the New Hampshire Wildcats, who carry high expectations after being picked to win the league in 2014. For Tim McDonald, I'm Bobby Broyles. We'll catch you later.